So first of all, Doug, thank you so very much again for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this evening and also to share your experience and insight with us as well. We are excited that you are here with us. We had a wonderful time this morning. After I left, a lot of my students were raving and raving about your presentation. So I'm quite sure that we are going to have a similar experience this evening. So having said that, I will allow you to go ahead and introduce yourself. Then you dive into your presentation before we have an opportunity to ask you some questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Vincent. Appreciate you having me here, and it's my pleasure. Believe me, I enjoy teaching. In fact, a little bit about me. I've always had sort of a dual career track, if you can see my screen. I was a teacher for 30 years. Simultaneously, I ran a tutoring company for about 10 of those years, and that was a franchise. So basically, if you know about franchises, you pay your money, and it's basically a business in a box. They tell you everything you need to do to make it successful. And it was a good business for many years, 10 years. And then the law changed in the state of Illinois, because we did a lot of this No Child Left Behind. Maybe some of you were a part of that when you were kids. But my point is the law changed, and we lost about 80% of our business. So this is something that is a really good lesson. And you're seeing this even as we speak, that business always has to adapt and change to the environment. So, for instance, you see this in the restaurant business very much across the country, but especially in Chicago, where you are, you're not supposed to have indoor dining right now. Well, it is November, right? And it is cold out, but some of these innovative restaurants, they will buy those heaters, outdoor heaters, and they will find a way to innovate and still make their business work for them. So that's a really good lesson, something to observe. So I've been involved I own a financial advising firm, and we have offices in Lansing, Illinois, and St. John, Indiana. Married, have 4 children. Some of my kids are college age. So a little bit about me. Also, I want to direct your attention to the bottom here where it says giving back. I support the following charities and causes. These are some of just a few of them, but Cedarville Greater Europe Mission Alzheimer's Foundation. I want to emphasize that because we're going to come back to that in just a few moments. But one thing, and let's see, my screen is, let's see, oh, here we go. In school, you students, you're training to be in business and be in management, and you're going to, at some point, manage people. You're probably going to manage inventory. You're probably going to manage sales. You're probably going to manage finances of a company, or at least keep track of finances, or be aware of what's going on in your company as your assistant manager, or become managers, or some of you, I'm sure, will be owners of your own companies at some point in your lives. But it's really important as you're managing other people and other things and products, it's really important to manage your own finances. Think about that for a minute. Now, let me ask you something. When you were growing up, maybe some of you are in your 20s or 30s, or in your own life, when you were growing up, what was money like in your household? Was it that that money was in short supply? That your family lived paycheck to paycheck? That were there fights about money in your home? Or was it that your finances were not an issue? That in fact, finances were so much of a non-issue that you got an allowance every week for doing nothing. And every week or every month, you just got your money and you can spend it as you please. What was money like in your family, in your parents? Now, my guess is, regardless of where the money situation in your home was, my guess is that your parents did the best with the knowledge they had. And perhaps their background, they never had an opportunity to learn about a positive money mindset. I'm going to challenge you right now, as you think of this, where you are at or your parents are at. Where are you at in this continuum from surviving to struggling, stable, secure to surplus? Where are you at in this continuum? Many clients that I work with are right here. If you can see my cursor moving, right between the struggling and stable. It's not unusual for that to be the case. My guess is some of you are in that same situation. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with being there. What I would say is, and I mean this in the best way, is to move yourself or find the tools to move yourself to the right, from struggling to stable, secure, and surplus. I think everybody wants that. I do not think people want to worry, lay in bed at night and wonder where the rent payment's going to come from, or the car payment, or the grocery bill. So it's not about where you came from or what happened in the past. You can't fix any of that. You can only move forward. So what I want to talk about tonight for a few minutes is a money mindset and some financial habits to live by. And I'm going to suggest to you that if you incorporate these things into your life and work on these things and develop the habits. Remember, a habit is not something that happens overnight. A habit takes a long time to develop. Some of you have a habit of going to the gym every week. Some of you have a habit of going out for pizza every Friday night. Some of you, we all have different habits, but we want to talk about financial habits that you can develop and take with you. Now, first one seems really obvious, but it's harder than you think. Spending less than you make. Spend less than you make. So let me ask you this question. These are all questions for you to ponder, think about. At the end of the month, is there more money at the end of the month, or is there more month at the end of the money? Is there more money at the end of the month, or is there more month at the end of the money? So there's many ways to think about this, but I think the first thing is, for many people, there is more month at the end of the money, and then we just skimp until the next paycheck, and we live paycheck to paycheck. Many people do that. If you're doing that, you're not alone. But so what I suggest for you, if you want to turn this piece around, here's what I suggest you do, is develop a budget. And I would suggest developing a budget like this, and I can send this out in the deck. In fact, Professor, I did send you the deck this morning, but I'll send another PDF of this out to you. But I would say write it down. write it down. And I would not even really worry about the annual budget. I would worry about the monthly budget. That's really what you need to be thinking about. And I'll tell you this, when I do this exercise with my clients, there's two places where we can fix their budget immediately or reduce spending if we have an issue with spending. There's a place we can do it immediately. Number one is fast food consumption. It is very easy to go through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. I know my kids do it all the time, getting their iced coffees. It's very easy to go through the Taco Bell or White Castle or whatever one of those fast food places is that you happen to like. And, you know, their meals are priced very inexpensively, you know, $3, $5, $8 for a full meal. And that's really good. That's really good when you need that. But I tell you what, you know, you do that 5 days a week. You do that 20 times a month, and you're going to see how much you're actually spending at those places. So my first suggestion is to reduce the fast food intake. Plan ahead a little bit. Pack a lunch for when you're going off to work. Make your coffee at home. Find some way to reduce your fast food intake. I just worked on this exercise with a young man in my office a week ago, and he, you know, I think he is a painter, and he was going out, and but anyways, he started going to the grocery store, buying a loaf of bread and some lunch meat and some cheese and mustard, and you know, that whole thing cost $10, let's say, versus and that'll last a week, and versus maybe $40 for the week. So there is a really that's a quick and short way to reduce your cash outflow. Here's another way that I've noticed is with subscriptions. And there's, let's see, there's Spotify, Pandora, YouTube TV, HBO. There's, you know, I don't know all of the ones that or Google Music. All these different subscriptions add up really quickly. And the first one's $8 or $10 or $15, and but then, and that may be fine to do that. But as these add up, it's $35, $50, $60, $100. Especially, I know YouTube TV keeps going up because we have that in our family. So be judicious about the use of these subscriptions, and if you're not using them on a regular basis, unsubscribe from those. Or if you don't use them, if you don't use them very much, unsubscribe to them. So budgeting as far as helping you spend less than you make. It makes sense. It's not easy to do all the time. Which leads me to the next one, being wise with debt. Being wise with debt. How do you feel about your debt load right now? How do you feel about your debt load? Some of you are thinking, I don't want to talk about it. It's depressing. I get it. And, you know, the spending less than you make leads into the debt load. For many of us, credit card is a very real debt. Did you know, and I Googled this yesterday as I was doing prep, the average credit card interest rate is 17%. 17%. Many of you on your credit cards, and you can check this on your statement, the interest rate. If you have a 20% interest rate and you carry a balance of $500 for a year, how much have you paid in interest? $100. That's huge. That is huge. So I would say to you, good rule of thumb with your debt is if you cannot pay off your credit card at the end of every month, thus avoiding the interest charges. You're spending too much. Pay off that credit card every month. That will be a good shorthand to see if you're spending too much. If you're spending less than you make, you need to spend less than you make. The other kinds of debt are not as important. Let's put it this way. They are important, but they're not as critical at your stage of life. School loan, maybe you are in the middle of school. Those rates are somewhere between 5 and 8% usually. Not great, but it's better than the credit card. Car notes and mortgages. You know, there is good debt and there is bad debt. I think I would say credit cards are bad debt because you have the means to control that. Mortgages are usually good debt. Why? Because the mortgage, the value of your home or your parents' home will accrue in value over time. So that is a good debt, I would say. The other thing I was going to say about this, let's say you are in credit card debt. Work on that first. Work on that first to eliminate that debt. And there are some ways you can do that by moving your debt over to another credit card that has a low interest rate, and then it gives you a year to pay that off. I know our company has that offer as well. If you qualify, THRIVENT Credit Union has that. So be wise with that, which leads me, and these all lead into each other, is protect yourself against setbacks. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what happens in your household if the car breaks down? What happens if you have a water heater break? What happens if the house needs a new roof? What happens in your family's life? Does it put everything into a tailspin? So first thing is, and as you're building your financial habits, again, remember, don't beat yourself up too much if you're not where you want to be. I don't think anybody's where they want to be, truthfully. But the first thing is get your spending under control, work on that debt, get that credit card paid off. And here's the next step. Save for yourself $1,000 in the bank. $1,000 in the bank. Why? Precisely so you can deal with those emergencies that come up, like the water heater or the brakes on your car or the transmission or I don't know. Everybody has all different kinds of setbacks. Or maybe it's Christmas and you want to be generous to your family, nieces and nephews, kids, cousins, and so forth. Nothing wrong with doing that. But start with saving $1,000 to have in your bank as a cushion. And then the next goal is to have 3 to 6 months of your salary cash on hand. 3 to 6 months of cash on hand. Why? Well, just think about what happened in March here, where all of a sudden for a month and longer, all service industry jobs were pretty much shut down. All the restaurants. And if you were in that industry, service industry, you got a big hit. Or, theaters shut down. Playhouses shut down. So all these, half the economy shut down. So for those people, obviously it makes for some scary times. But if you have 3 months of cash on hand, or 6 months is even better, that is really good for you. That will help you sleep easier at night and not worry. Now, we all worried in some level, right? In March, what was going to happen to the world and the economy and stuff. But having that money gives you a little bit of peace of mind. Also, regarding setbacks, if you have a job with a company I want you to be very aware of your employer handbook and what it says with regard to 401k. Most companies have some kind of a 401k plan. Many companies have a matching program where if you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even I've seen it up to 7%. If you put in a percentage of your salary, they will match it. So if you're putting in a 3%, they're going to match 3%. Guess what? You have 6% of your salary going for your future self. Every company is different on this. There's no standard on how much they will contribute. With a 401k, just so you know, you have to be over 21 to participate. And sometimes there's a vesting period. You have to be with the company sometimes a year or 2 years. Like I say, every company is different with that. But take advantage of that. What does your company say about life insurance? Do they give you a little life insurance policy if you passed? And who are the beneficiaries for that policy? How about disability? If you're disabled on the job, how long does that last? All those things are good to know, important to know. And if they are not as robust as you would like them, you should probably get a policy outside your job. I would argue that you always should, just because we change jobs. The tendency is to change jobs, especially as you're young, and you should have a policy that carries with you wherever you go. But anyways, protecting yourself against setbacks. Start with that $1,000, graduate to 3 to 6 months cash on hand. Thing you can do today or tomorrow is become familiar with that employee handbook. So this comes to the next financial habit to live by. By the way, my college years, this was the best thing I learned in all my college. It can be summed up in 3 words. In 3 words, all my college, it was have a plan. Have a plan. Have a plan, a short-term plan, and have a long-term plan. What do you want your life to look like in a year? What do you want your life to look like in 5 years or 10 years or 30 years? Where do you want to go, and how do you want to get there? Some of you are going to have a goal, I'm sure of it, that you want to have or earn $1 million. Maybe $1 million in your investment account, or you want to be you want to have $1 million in your in some kind of account, or you want to have a home that's worth some of you are going to have that as your goal. Okay, how are you going to get there? What is your plan to get there? And I'll tell you this, regardless of what you see on social media or TV or whatever, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot. Sometimes there's a exorbitant amount of talent that goes into it, but there's also hard work. The other thing I would say is surround yourself with successful people. If you see somebody that is more successful than you, make sure you talk to them and say, hey, can I take you out for coffee? Can we get together? I want to hear your success story. Make sure you're communicating and networking with people who are more successful than you. Very rarely, but once in a while, you will come across a person who is selfish, who says, no, I don't want to help you. Well, let me tell you, in the long run, those type of people who are selfish and not giving of themselves are really losers in the long run, and avoid them like the plague. I would say. And here's the last piece, and this is why I showed you some of the groups that I'm passionate about and who groups that I'm involved with. And let me put this as delicately, but as truthfully as I can, not to offend anyone, but life is not about you. Life is not about you. And the sooner you learn that, I would say to you that you will have a more fulfilling life. Well, you're saying, Doug, how can that be? Let me ask you this. Your life is really about others, helping others. I'm convinced about no matter what line of work you are in, it is about making the lives of others better. So think about who are the people, the causes, and the charities that you most care about. I'll say it again. Who are the people, causes, charities, or I'll add this as well. Maybe for some of you, church that you care about. And so what do we do when we care about someone or something? What do? We spend time with them. If you care about your mother, make sure you spend time with her, share a meal with her on a regular basis. She will be thrilled. I know this from experience. If you care about a charity or a cause, spend time with that charity, invest in that charity with your time and energy. If you care about a church, spend time there, volunteer at that church. I think because if you have the mindset that my life is all just about me, I think at the end of the day, you will be very, what's the right word? Sad. I'll put it that way.
Unfulfilling.
And you will have a lonely life, quite frankly. and that's, and I bring that up. That's not really a financial piece. I guess it is because you can contribute, but I think, I would say being a financial planner, I will be the first to tell you life is not all about money. It's about relationships. It's about connections. It's about helping other people. And I help people by helping them with their finances. Here's just another way of thinking about this. Some of you are very visual learners. I know I am. And when I see this pyramid, it really takes into effect everything that we talked about. So that base part, that foundation of your plan, of your life plan, is protection. What does protection meaning? Well, here we talked about this. Emergency savings, that first $1,000, budgeting, not spending more than we make. Debt management, actively paying off first and foremost that credit card. Health insurance, if you have a job, many jobs have health insurance. Health savings account is another way that your employer may have for you to save on health. Life insurance, of course. Usually companies have a small life policy. If you're a homeowner, property casualty liability insurance, disability insurance. If you're disabled, and if everyone's depending on you in your family, you need to have that piece. Long-term care insurance, we talk about that as people move into their late 40s, early 50s, and wills, power of attorney, and trust. When you're no longer, if you're out on your own, if you have children, you need to have a will, power of attorney, and trust. And then accumulation, and these are not, you do one and do the other. It's some of these are mixed together, but you can start retirement savings now. In fact, you can start an IRA, individual retirement account, when you're 18. And I'll tell you this, and I said this to the other class, it's not timing the market to get in, jump in at the best time. It's time in the market. So for some of you, you have 20, 30, 40, maybe 45, maybe even 50 years before retirement happens for you. Think about all that time that you can weather the market fluctuations and be putting money in every month for your future self, just on a regular basis, whether it's $100 or $200, or even $50. $50 is better than nothing, but we call it, in our business, we call it dollar cost averaging, every month being very intentional about accumulation for your future self. College savings as well. You know, you're in college, but if you have, as you have children, saving for college for them and so on. And then distribution, making sure that you do not run out of money in retirement. You know, Social Security is good as far as it goes, but it pays for your needs. It does not pay for your wants. It does not pay for your wishes. It pays for your needs. That's intentional. It pays for your food and shelter and clothing. That's about it. Maybe some utilities, everything else, vacations that you would want to take, traveling that you'd want to do, all take extra money. And then legacy. How do you want to be remembered? Who do you want your money to go to? Because I'm convinced in this group this size, some of you are going to be very, very successful. No doubt in my mind. And doing these things, digesting these things, thinking about these things will be a piece of your road to success. So Professor asked me to talk a little bit about different ways to save and invest. So let me address that now. So he talked a little bit about savings, but when you have a portfolio, when you have money, and don't let the word portfolio scare you. Everybody has a portfolio. Right now, you may just have money in savings. But as you go through life, you're going to build out your portfolio, your assets, as it were. Portfolio can mean a house, any kind of asset as a portfolio. But for right now, let's talk about your savings and checking. This is in the tax bucket of tax now. And what this means is the money in your checking savings. Some of you have, maybe you invest on Robinhood or one of the mobile apps or something like that. Any profit that you make in savings, checking, stocks, all this, you will get a 1099 every year, and it'll be plugged into your taxes. Now, savings and checking, you're not earning very much these days, right? 0.03 is about the upper limit. If you have an online bank, you may get that up to a higher 0.05 or 0.08. Why? Because they don't have a bricks and mortar location to pay for. It's all virtual. So they can pass the savings along to you. But for most of us, if we bank at Chase or First Midwest or something like that, your interest is about 0.03. Okay. Now, and that's good to have. What's the advantage of having money there in savings and checking? It's liquid. You could go right now while we're speaking on your app and move money around. Very liquid. You can do it instantaneously. It's good to have money in that bucket. Now, let's talk about your tax later bucket. Tax later bucket is where your 401k lives, or if you have somebody who's in teaches or works at a hospital or in the trades, they have a pension, and which are nice. They have some advantages because they pay out X number of dollars when you retire. Hit the trigger on that. It pays out X number of dollars for life. So and you don't have to worry about the market because you're guaranteed that money as much as anything can be guaranteed. But many of us have 401ks. Some of us have IRAs. IRA stands for individual retirement account. In other words, you started this outside of your company. It's good to have both for reasons I'll get into a little bit later, or we'll talk in the Q&A. But this is money that you've not paid taxes on. It goes pre-tax into these buckets right here. And when you retire, you take the money out. And guess what? You pay the taxes on it when you retire. You take it as regular income. So, you know, whether you're taking out $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year or whatever it is, you're going to be paying taxes on that when you retire. All right. Now, the other area of investing, and this is where I encourage everybody to think about, is money that is tax never again money. Tax never again money, meaning you pay taxes on it. It comes out of your checking or savings, or from an IRA. Taxes have already been paid, or we move over the tax wall, move over here, and we use something called a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. Some of you will have benefits, and this goes back to the benefits piece. Some of you will have an opportunity to contribute to a Roth 401k. By all means, do that. Sometimes we use cash value life insurance. My point is, when you draw this money out, it is tax-free. Why? Because you've paid the taxes right over here before it's gone in to your bank account. Or if you move it from an IRA to a Roth IRA, you do have to deduct somewhere between 15 and 25% for state and federal taxes. So, which is not fun, believe me, when you see how much taxes we pay as Americans, which, by the way, is the lowest, not getting political, but right now we are in the lowest tax environment that I have ever seen in my life. So is that going to stay where it is for very much longer? No, because taxes at some point, I would predict, have to go up. Why? Because we're spending a lot of money on stimulus and stuff. Nothing, not being political, but just telling you where we're at with that. So again, have a budget and write it down, because there's something about putting pen to paper that is very helpful. And so you can see it. Doesn't mean it can't change and so forth, but putting it pen to paper, and I'll send that out as well. So I've talked for, I don't know how long I talked here, Professor, but I will entertain some questions here. Maybe they've been coming in.
Okay, let me take a look at the chat room. Before, yes, we have some questions for you. Before I pose my students' questions for you, let me ask you my own questions.
Yeah.
Okay, number one, you indicated that it is a good habit to spend less than you make.
Yeah.
You also indicated that that is common sense. Everybody should know that. Why do you think that most people spend more than they actually make?
You know, I think it is, and this has been the same since I was a kid. Only the platforms have changed, because when I was a kid, I mean, there still is TV commercials, but we were influenced by primarily TV commercials. And we saw that, I mean, it still happens when you're watching football, right? There's, what are there? Car commercials, there's beer commercials. And is there any other kind of, I don't know. I see a lot of car commercials when I'm watching football, a lot of beer commercials too, but we're influenced by that Mercedes commercial, and boy, wow. Or getting a car for Christmas. Doesn't that sound cool? Seems real easy. Look at these people did it. So we're influenced by commercials on TV. We're also influenced by, there's influencers on social media, and they're modeling clothes, cosmetics, gadgets, tools, toys. And so we are influenced by those people, and they make it look easy. Like, I could just get that. I could be like that. So believe me, it's really easy to just go along with that flow. It takes some self-discipline to say no.
Thank you for that answer. I think that also plays into your emphasis on budget. A lot of people make 70,000 or 60,000. You wind up spending in your mind thinking that you make $70,000, but you're not taking anything close to $70,000 at the end of the year if you really don't put the budget together and also take a look at your taxes. I remember a situation, I prepared tax returns for a husband and wife. They made $250,000. I told them that they owe about $4,000 or $5,000. All of a sudden, the guy had some tears in his eyes. I said, what is happening? He said, you say I owe $4,000, but I don't even have $1,000 in my bank account. His question was, where did the money go? I said, do you know how much you are paying in taxes? He said, no. So quickly, I did some math. State income tax, federal income tax, social security tax, Medicare tax, property tax, sales tax. By the time I put all of them together, they wound up paying $102,000 a year out of $250,000. So 42%. So, but now in their mind, they think they are making $250,000 and they are spending as such. So they easily get into trouble. Okay, so now just a comment, then I ask my students to ask their question. You also talk about the importance of setting budget. Some of my students are very young, and I can see the temptation of my students saying, well, I really don't make too much money. I really don't need a budget. But that is very incorrect because you need to start now. It's all about forming habit. Habits are very difficult to form, but by the time you form them, you stick with them. So as a matter of fact, this is the best time for you to start now. And also, a lot of us are raised in different homes. Can you just imagine being raised in dog's house? You don't have the choice but to do budget, right? So some of these things our parents influence us, right?
By the way, this is not my house. This picture here, this is the corporate corporate office in Minneapolis. So this is not my house, okay?
Oh, yeah. I was not actually thinking about that as much as I'm thinking about if a child is raised in your house, it doesn't matter whom that child is, that child is going to form the habit of doing budget because I know you are teaching your children that just like I'm teaching my children money management. So the environment where you were born and raised also have a whole lot to do with this as well. Just a quick comment. So now let's take a look at my students' questions. This is Tamisha. I hope you can read this as well. She said, do you think Fidelity Investment is good for investing as a beginner because they vary your portfolio?
Yeah, I think they're, Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, my company, THRIVENT, they all have good product for you to invest in. Any of those, you will do fine. There's other smaller investment houses you can use, but any of them are good investments, good places to park your money. Absolutely.
That's good. So here's another question. What percent or dollar amount should you put aside per pay period?
Well, that's a great question. That is a great question. And I actually worked this out with a person today. And to do this, let's see if I can do a whiteboard here. And so you're getting, this is really neat because you guys are getting this. I just did this maybe 3 or 4 hours ago in my office. So think of yourself, 2 people, and you can see that drawing is not my specialty. There's a reason I'm not an artist for a living. This is supposed to be somebody's head, okay? Here's the first person. They get their paycheck every week or every month or every 2 weeks, and they spend it down and they go and do their stuff. And then they look around and they go, oh, you know what? I better put some money away. So they put X number of dollars away. Okay. Here's the other person or couple or family, however you want to break this down. They have preset investments. Investments meaning they pay their bills, they put some money in the bank, they put some money towards a Roth IRA, those kind of things. Okay, so they have their preset deductions that go out every month. Now they've done that. Now they don't worry because they just spend, because they've given themselves permission to spend what they have because they've already set aside money for their future self. Okay. At the end of the day, who is the happier person? Well, the person, if you could respond, you would. But here's and this is not from me originally, but the person who sets aside somewhere between 15 and 20% of their salary for their future. And that does not all mean in investments. I have another talk where I talk about short-term bucket of money, which is your money in the bank, a midterm bucket of money, which is money you're saving for a big ticket item like a car or a house, a down payment on a house, and a long-term bucket of money, which is your retirement money. This is not all for retirement. This is between those three buckets. Now, person I was talking to as well, they were very involved in their church, and they let me know that. So they were giving, on top of that, they were giving about 10% to their church. So guess what they were living on? 70% of their paycheck. Now, that's not for everybody, and that may not be your situation in life right now, but you've got to develop those habits of, maybe it's not 15% now, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's, some amount, but somewhere I would say, if you get a full-time job, career job, let's put it this way, 15 to 20% for your future self. That's where I would start. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah, very much so. To me, yeah, I hope it makes sense to the person that asked the question as well. So another question, also the ease of access to your money. This question is from Cam. Cam, you said also the ease of access to your money. So can you elaborate on that question?
It was in response to why do you think it's hard for people to, when he started talking about the social media influence and stuff, but also how he spoke about online banking, the quickness that we're able to get quicker to our money versus back in the day when you used to have to go physically into the bank to pull money out. Because it went from that to ATMs to now we got where I could tap my phone and use money, or I could send money via my phone somewhere. So it makes it hard. And then with the social media, they put ads up there. Then it's like, oh, do you have Apple Pay? I sure do. And you hit the click, and now you done spent $200 that you didn't expect to spend.
Yeah, that's a pretty good input, Cam. I never thought about it that way. Okay, and that is very true.
And if I may comment, talking about advertising and media, why is it that all advertisers want to purchase time on a show that has that 18 to 30 demographic? That's the sweet spot. That's where they want to spend their money. Why? Because they're more apt to buy something versus somebody who's 65 who has the financial habits, or 55, they're less influenced by those things. But younger people tend to be more influenced by the ads that they see on Instagram or on the internet or TV. Right? It's just the way it is.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. So when my lovely and beautiful wife came to the United States about 29 years ago. I come home from work and she talks about, oh, honey, these people are on sales. I come back the following day, she said, oh, honey, these people are on sales. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. They are always on sales in this country, 365 days. That is not the reason to go out and shop, you know? So yeah, the importance of having a excellent money management skills cannot be overemphasized.
Right. And also the same way with Amazon, where it's right on your phone, you can buy pretty much, oh, it's not showing up. There it is. Right on your phone, you can buy pretty much whatever you need instantaneously.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. I think that would do it for tonight. It's almost an hour. I just want to really appreciate you, Doug. My big takeaway, just like I told you this morning, is the fact that life is not about you. That hits home. Your life is not. Your life is about helping others.
Hey, Professor, I have a quick question.
I had a question. I had a question too. It was in the chat. It disappeared.
Okay,
but I'll wait.
This is Jamal Porche.
Jamal,
Yeah, just a quick question. And I've heard different stories. I got my own personal opinion about it. But as a financial advisor, what are your thoughts on borrowing from your 401k for expenses such as debt consolidation or home renovation or something like that? What are your personal thoughts on that?
Unless in an extreme emergency, please do not do that. Why do I say that? Well, because you're going to take a 10% hit right off the top.
Penalty.
10% penalty. Plus, you're going to pay taxes on that as well. So let's say that you, let's say that you're in the 22% tax bracket plus 3% state tax plus the 10%. You're paying 35% in taxes and penalties on that 401k. Please do not take money away from your 401k. Now, if that's the case where you're, you've already done that, pay it back as quickly as you can. That money is for your future self. That's why we're talking about having, and again, my other talk is about 3 buckets of money. Short-term bucket of money, that 3 to 6 months cash on hand. Mid-term bucket of money, that's your money you're going to use in 3 to 10 years, and it's for a house or a car or whatever. And then your long-term bucket of money. So please, now I realize that there's things happen, right? And sometimes that is the best option that you have. If it is, then by all means do that. But I'm not convinced that it, many times it is not.
Okay, thank you.
That sounds pretty good. So just to Cam, before you ask your question, just to piggyback on what Doug said, Doug, that was an excellent response. And that is what I would have said. Jamal, I don't want to, at the risk of repeating what he just said, you really, really don't want to do that. However, if you have to, it is what it is. Now, there's another option that some people are not aware, and that is there are some retirement plans that actually allow you to borrow against your money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you borrow against your money, you're actually borrowing money from your account with 3 or 4% interest rate, and that interest rate is going to be paid to your account.
Mm-hmm.
Just go ahead and pay it back from your paycheck for 1 or 2 or 3 years, however the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Cam?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, he's not talking about a full withdrawal. He's talking about a loan against. He wasn't talking about a full withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, my question was in the beginning. I heard you speak of franchises, and I wanted to know what is the pros and cons of franchises versus business ownership.
Yeah, that's a great.
If he was considering it.
That's a great question. So, like I said, a franchise. I guess this would be a positive. A franchise is a business in the box. You pay your money and they tell you exactly what you need to do, and you cannot deviate from that plan. Let's say your franchise is a, I don't know, a Culver's.
McDonald's. Mhm.
Yeah, or McDonald's. Yeah, you can't start at McDonald's. You can't start serving tacos. You can't start serving chop suey unless it's a McDonald's authorized product and it's gone through all their testing and their kitchen and so forth. You must do exactly what they say. So for many of us, and it helped me immensely when I ran a franchise, and mine was really cheap. Mine was not, I'll tell you how much, mine was $60,000, which is a pretty inexpensive for a franchise. And I made that money many times over in the years that I had mine. It was definitely worth my investment. Now, the disadvantage is it cost me $60,000 to get into the game. And if you're doing a restaurant, let's say, your cost, or a Subway. Subway's a great example because there are many of them. And for a restaurant, it's relatively cheap to get in. It still is. Well, if you don't have $60,000, it's still, that bar is still too high. Versus if you just go out on a street corner and rent a space on a street and start your own sandwich shop, and you can maybe do it for $20,000. So, but they're not, but you have to figure out everything yourself or have partners or friends who are willing to help you. So that's the two-edged sword of a franchise, if that makes sense, Cam.
And then my last and final question for you is, do you have a YouTube? Because I really enjoyed your conversation.
Well, I watch YouTube, but no, I do not have a YouTube channel, but thank you. You're very kind.
So we need to start one. We might be able to make some money from that, Doug. I'll help you with that. You give me some vision.
Professor.
Yeah.
I don't know if he answered my question, but I have put in a question
Okay,
that
go ahead. Ask
what's the difference? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, I can.
Oh, this is Belinda.
Oh, Belinda. Okay.
What's the difference? Like my employer offers a 401k and a Roth. Which option do you think that would be beneficial to myself?
The short answer to that is both. So your employer, if they match, if they do a matching thing, you can have the employer direct their money into the 401k and your money into the Roth 401k. So you're getting the best of both worlds. So
now that COVID is happening, they stopped the matching for right now. They ceased the matching. So with the Roth, do I just put a certain dollar amount in every pay period, or is it a certain percentage as well?
You can designate a percentage or a dollar amount, whichever one you want. Now, just so you know that if you contribute to the Roth, it's not reducing your taxable income. When you do the traditional 401k, it's reducing your taxable income. So in other words, if you're making $30,000, you put $5,000 into the traditional, your tax bill is $25,000 versus that 30. So it reduces the amount you pay in taxes now, but it's increasing. I would say it's better to pay higher taxes now than when you're 65 and pulling money out of the Roth.
Yeah, that sounds good. A couple of more questions, then we let you go, Doug. How, this is Takia. How effective do you think your 5-step strategy will help a person move to the right from struggling to stable? Mm-hmm.
I think it's very helpful. I think it will help you. Now, again, like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. I don't know if I said it in this class or the other class, but you've heard the phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day, neither was a financial plan. And it takes years. It could take a year, it could take 2, 5 years. You know, and I'll tell you this, I don't agree with everything he says, but Dave Ramsey has some good stuff for people to get out of debt and to get on that that path. So he has some very good stuff to say about that.
Yeah, that's good. That's
And it's very similar to what I say too. It's,
yeah. The last question, Doug. This is this is from Joseph Balmejo. He says, spending drives the economy. Don't you think that a reduction of expenditure on fast food will reduce the level of employment in the economy?
You're absolutely right, Joseph, that spending does drive the economy. It just doesn't have to be your spending. Let somebody else take that burden upon them.
If you want to be financially stable, it doesn't have to be your spending. Okay, the last question is, would you consider CDs to be better than bonds?
CDs are, well, you know, you're locking with a CD, you're locking up your money for anywhere from 3 months to what, 2 years or 3 years. The interest rates aren't all that great on bonds that I have seen. I'm sorry, on CDs. I like bonds. A bond fund that I use gets between 2.5%, 3%, and it's very stable and very safe. So I'm more predisposed to bonds.
Thank you so very much, Doug. By the way, Doug also shared his contact information with us. He has a couple of offices, but one of them is right here in South Holland. So in the event that you are interested in getting some help with your financial, personal financial planning, or if you have someone, your uncle or auntie that is struggling with personal finances, please share Doc's telephone number. He's just as effective with what he does, just as much as he was able to articulate his position. And by the way, Doug is currently helping my senior pastor in my church in regards to this matter. So on that note, Doug, again, thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be our guest speaker. Certainly, we enjoyed the time we spent, and hopefully and prayerfully, you know, maybe in subsequent semester, I enjoy myself as well. I have a lot of takeaways. So I hope you will also come back to Chicago State to help us out.
Yeah, well, doing this virtually is really nice. I like this rather than getting out in the cold and the snow. I've got to say, I'm liking this more and more.
Same
Right?
TDS.
Feel free to reach out to me. Anybody who has some questions, further discussion, I'm be happy to talk with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
everybody.
All right. Take care, Doug. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.